Maya Bennett thought she'd heard every hurtful comment whispered behind closed doors, but nothing prepared her for the words that would shatter her world in a crowded restaurant foyer. When Evan Whitaker muttered, "My wife must be white," into his phone, he had no idea the woman destined to change his life forever was standing right behind him. What started as the most humiliating blind date in history would spiral into a love story that would tear apart family loyalties, expose generational prejudices, and force a man to choose between his mother's approval and his heart's truth. But when Maya walks into Evan's family home as his father's caregiver the very next day, the universe sets a trap that neither of them can escape. Some secrets destroy families, others save them in the most unexpected ways. If you're hooked and want to see how this story unfolds, hit that subscribe button and tell me which city you're watching from. The late afternoon sun painted golden streaks across the water as Maya Bennett checked her phone one more time. 6 o'clock sharp, just like they'd agreed. She smoothed down her navy blue dress and took a deep breath. Blind dates always made her nervous, but her co-worker had insisted that Evan seemed like one of the good ones. Through the glass doors of Lakeside Grill, she could see a tall man with sandy brown hair pacing near the hostess stand. He wore dark jeans and a light blue button-down that brought out his eyes. Even from a distance, she could tell he was anxious too, checking his watch, running his hand through his hair. Maya pushed through the entrance and heard him talking on his phone just a few feet away. His back was to her as he spoke in a low, urgent voice. "I don't know, Marcus. Mom keeps dropping hints about settling down, but you know how she is. She's made it pretty clear that my wife must be white if I want to keep the peace at family dinners." The words hit Maya like ice water. She froze, her hand still on the door handle. For a moment she considered turning around and walking straight back to her car, but something kept her feet planted on the restaurant's worn wooden floors. Evan ended his call and turned around. His face went from relief to horror in the space of a heartbeat as he saw her standing there. Maya's expression was calm, but he could see the hurt flickering in her dark eyes. "Maya?" His voice cracked slightly on her name. "That's me." She lifted her chin a little higher. "Though it sounds like I'm not exactly what you had in mind." The color drained from Evan's face. "No, that's not. I didn't mean—" He stopped himself and closed his eyes for a second. "I'm so sorry you heard that. There's no excuse for what I just said." The hostess approached with a bright smile, menus tucked under her arm. "Table for two, right this way." Maya looked at Evan, then at the hostess, then back at Evan. Every instinct told her to leave, but another part of her, the part that had been raised to give people a chance to explain themselves, made her nod toward the dining room. "One coffee," she said clearly. "Then I'm leaving." They followed the hostess to a small table by the windows. The lake stretched out before them, peaceful and quiet. Families walked along the shore path, children chasing ducks while parents watched and laughed. It was the kind of scene that should have made Maya smile. Instead, she felt like she was watching it from behind glass. Evan pulled out her chair and she sat down without thanking him. The hostess handed them menus and promised their server would be right over. "Maya," Evan began, leaning forward slightly. "I know you have no reason to listen to me, but—" "You're right," she cut him off. "I don't." Their server appeared, a kind-faced older man with gentle eyes and graying temples. He seemed to sense the tension at their table because he spoke softly. "Good evening, folks. Can I start you with something to drink?" "Coffee, please," Maya said. "Black." "Make that too," Evan added. "And thank you for the privacy." The server nodded and disappeared toward the kitchen. Evan folded his hands on the table and looked directly at Maya. "I was talking to my brother about family pressure," he said quietly, "about how my mother has certain expectations. What I said was wrong. It was hurtful, and I'm sorry you had to hear it." Maya studied his face. He looked genuinely upset, but she'd learned not to trust appearances. "Are you sorry I heard it, or are you sorry you said it?" The question hung in the air between them. Evan was quiet for a long moment, and Maya could see him really thinking about her words. "Both," he said finally. "I'm sorry I said something that cruel and ignorant, and I'm sorry you had to be hurt by it. But is it what you believe?" Again, he was quiet. Maya watched him struggle with his answer, and something in his honesty made her stay in her seat instead of walking away. "I grew up hearing things," he said slowly. "Comments at dinner tables, jokes that weren't really jokes, expectations that were never spoken out loud but were always there. I've been trying to unlearn those things, but clearly I haven't done a good enough job." Their coffee arrived, steam rising from the white ceramic mugs. The server set them down gently, and refilled their water glasses without interrupting the conversation. Maya wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, letting the warmth seep into her palms. Trying isn't the same as doing. You're absolutely right. She took a sip of her coffee and looked out at the lake. A young couple was sharing an ice cream cone on a nearby bench, laughing as they tried to keep it from dripping. It was such a simple, sweet scene. Maya wondered if she'd ever have something like that, someone who chose her without having to overcome their family's disapproval first. "Tell me something," she said, turning back to Evan. "If your mother could pick your wife for you, what would she look like?" Evan shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Maya, answer the question," he sighed. "Blonde hair, blue eyes, probably from a family my mother already knows. Someone who would fit right into her idea of what our family should look like. And what do you want?" For the first time since they'd sat down, Evan's expression softened. "I want someone kind, someone who makes me laugh, someone who cares about more than just fitting in, but preferably someone white. That's what I thought I wanted until about 10 minutes ago." Maya felt something shift in her chest, but she pushed it away. Words were easy. Actions were harder. "What changed 10 minutes ago?" "I saw the way you looked at me when you heard what I said. I saw how much it hurt you, even though you tried to hide it. And I realized that if I let my mother's opinions decide who I can love, I'll never actually be happy." A commotion at the table next to them interrupted their conversation. A little boy, maybe 5 years old, was choking on something. His face was turning red as his father patted his back frantically. Without thinking, Maya and Evan both stood up at the same time. Maya rushed to the mother, who was starting to panic, while Evan moved to help the father. "It's okay," Maya said to the woman, her voice calm but urgent. "Just breathe with me, in and out." Evan positioned himself behind the little boy and performed the Heimlich maneuver with careful, controlled movements. After what felt like forever, but was probably only seconds, a grape popped out of the boy's throat. He started crying immediately, which made everyone sigh with relief. "Thank you," the father said, his voice shaking. "Thank you so much." The mother hugged her son close to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Maya rubbed the woman's shoulder gently. "He's okay," Maya said softly. "Kids are tougher than we think." "Are you a nurse?" the mother asked. "I'm a home health aide. I work with elderly clients mostly, but I've been trained for emergencies." Evan was checking on the little boy, who had stopped crying and was now interested in the grape that had nearly choked him. "You feeling better, buddy?" The boy nodded and reached for his mother. The family thanked Maya and Evan several more times before the server moved them to a different table to give them some space to recover. Maya and Evan sat back down, the energy between them completely different now. Maya had seen him move quickly and calmly to help a stranger. She'd watched him speak gently to a scared child. These weren't the actions of someone who judged people by the color of their skin. "You were good with them," she said quietly. "So were you. You knew exactly how to calm her down." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both processing what had just happened. The coffee in Maya's cup was getting cold, but she found herself in no hurry to leave. "Can I ask you something?" Evan said. Maya nodded. "Would you be willing to take a short walk after we finish our coffee? Not as a date," he added quickly, "just so we can talk a little more. I promise I won't try to change your mind about anything. I'd like a chance to explain a few things." Maya looked at him carefully. The panic and embarrassment from earlier had been replaced by something else, something that looked like genuine regret mixed with quiet determination. "5 minutes," she said. "That's all. That's more than I deserve." They finished their coffee in relative quiet, making small talk about the lake and the restaurant. When Evan asked for the check, Maya insisted on splitting it. He didn't argue. Outside, a light rain had started to fall. Evan pulled an umbrella from his car and offered it to Maya, but she shook her head. "I don't mind getting a little wet," she said. They walked along the path that circled the lake, keeping a careful distance from each other. The rain made soft pattering sounds on the leaves above them, and the air smelled fresh and clean. "I need you to understand something," Evan said as they walked. "What you heard me say, that's not who I want to be, that's who I was raised to be. There's a difference." "Is there, though?" Maya asked. "At some point, don't you have to take responsibility for your own thoughts?" "You're absolutely right, and that's what I'm trying to do. It's not an excuse, but my mother has spent 30 years telling me who I should marry, where I should live, what kind of car I should drive. I've been pushing back on most of it, but this," he shook his head, "this was my blind spot." Maya stopped walking and turned to face him. "Why should I believe that you can change?" "Because I don't want to be the kind of person who hurts someone the way I hurt you tonight. because I don't want to live my life according to someone else's prejudices, and because—" he paused, seeming to gather his courage—"because I've never met anyone who made me want to be better just by being themselves." The rain was getting heavier now. Maya's dress was starting to stick to her shoulders, and Evan's hair was dripping into his eyes. But neither of them moved toward shelter. "Trust isn't something you can earn in one conversation," Maya said. "It's a pattern. It's what you do when no one's watching, when it's not convenient, when your family disapproves. I know that. Do you?" She studied his face in the dim light from the street lamps along the path. "Because I won't be anyone's experiment in personal growth. I won't be the black girlfriend you date to prove a point to yourself or anyone else. That's not what I want. What do you want?" Evan was quiet for a long moment, rain dripping from his chin. "Honestly, I want to get to know you, not as a lesson in tolerance or a rebellion against my family. Just you, Maya. The woman who stayed calm during an emergency and who gives second chances even when people don't deserve them." Maya felt something flutter in her chest. Not quite hope, but not complete dismissal either. "I'm going to give you my number," she said finally, "but I'm only doing it because I believe in second chances, not third chances, not fourth chances. Second chances." Evan nodded quickly. "I understand." They exchanged phone numbers, both of their screens getting spotted with raindrops. As they reached Maya's car, Evan held the umbrella over her while she unlocked the door. "Thank you," she said, getting into the driver's seat, "for the walk, for being honest. Thank you for listening, for staying, for giving me a chance I probably don't deserve." Maya started her engine and rolled down her window slightly. "Evan?" "Yeah?" "Your mother's expectations are her problem, not mine. If you decide you want to get to know me better, it has to be because you genuinely want to, not because you're trying to prove something to yourself or anyone else." "I understand." "Good." She put the car in reverse. "I'll be thinking about tonight, about what kind of person you showed me you could be during that emergency. That's the person I might be interested in getting to know." Maya drove away, leaving Evan standing in the parking lot under his umbrella. In her rearview mirror, she could see him watching her taillights disappear into the rainy night. As she drove home to her small apartment across town, Maya replayed the evening in her mind. The shock of hearing those words, the way her heart had sunk, but also the way he'd moved to help that family without thinking, the way he'd spoken to her honestly, even when it made him uncomfortable. Her phone buzzed with a text just as she pulled into her parking space. From Evan. "Thank you for tonight." "I meant everything I said." Maya stared at the message for a long time before responding, "We'll see." Inside her apartment, her roommate Tasha was waiting with a cup of tea and an expectant expression. "How was the blind date?" Tasha asked, curling up on their small couch. Maya kicked off her heels and sank into the chair across from her best friend. "It was, complicated." "Complicated how? Good complicated or run for the hills complicated?" "I honestly don't know yet." Maya told Tasha the whole story. The overheard phone call, the emergency with the child, the walk in the rain. Tasha listened without interrupting, her expression growing more concerned as the story went on. "So, let me get this straight," Tasha said when Maya finished. "This man basically said he could only marry a white woman, you heard him say it, and you still gave him your number. He helped save a kid's life, Tasha, and he was honest with me about how wrong he was." "Honey." Tasha set down her teacup and leaned forward. "Men say a lot of things when they're caught. That doesn't mean they mean them." "I know that. But there was something about the way he looked when he realized I'd heard him, like he was genuinely horrified by his own words. And what if he wasn't? What if this is all an act to get you to lower your guard?" Maya sighed and pulled her knees up to her chest. "Then I'll find out soon enough. But if I don't give him a chance to prove he meant what he said, I'll never know if he could have been different." Tasha was quiet for a moment, studying her friend's face. "You really liked him, didn't you? Before you heard what he said?" "For about 30 seconds, yeah. He seemed nervous in a sweet way. And when he helped that family..." Maya shook her head. "I don't know, Tasha. Maybe I'm being stupid." "You're not stupid. You're hopeful. There's a difference." Tasha reached over and squeezed Maya's hand. "Just promise me you'll be careful. Don't let hope blind you to red flags." "I promise." That night, Maya lay in bed staring at the ceiling, rain pattering against her window. She thought about the way Evan had looked when he turned around and saw her standing there. The shame and horror in his eyes hadn't seemed fake. Neither had the gentleness in his voice when he spoke to the scared little boy. People could change, couldn't they? Her grandmother had always said that a person's true character showed up in moments of crisis. Tonight, When that child was choking, Evan had shown kindness, quick thinking, and genuine care for strangers. Those weren't qualities someone could fake in the heat of the moment, but Tasha was right to be worried. Maya had been down this road before, giving chances to men who said all the right things, but never quite followed through with the right actions. She'd been the exception to enough men's usual type to know how that story ended. This time would be different, though. This time she wouldn't make excuses for him. She wouldn't explain away his failures or rationalize his behavior. If Evan wanted to prove he was serious about changing, he'd have to do it with actions, not words. As she finally drifted off to sleep, Maya made herself a promise. She would give him exactly one chance to show her who he really was. If he disappointed her, she'd walk away without looking back. But if he surprised her, if he proved that people really could grow and change, maybe, just maybe, something good could come from this complicated night. Outside her window, the rain continued to fall, washing the day clean and making space for whatever tomorrow might bring. Maya's phone buzzed at exactly 8:30 the next morning. A text from her supervisor at Sunshine Home Care. New client assignment today. Daniel Whitaker, 1247 Maple Street. Starts at 9 a.m. She groaned and rolled out of bed. She'd barely slept, her mind spinning with memories of rain-soaked conversations and unexpected honesty. The last thing she needed was to jump straight into a new client relationship when her emotions were already scrambled. But work was work, and Maya took pride in her professionalism. She showered quickly, pulled her hair back into a neat bun, and grabbed her medical bag and clipboard. Daniel Whitaker's file showed he was a 62-year-old widower, recovering from a mild stroke. The notes mentioned he had family nearby, but needed daily check-ins for medication management and light exercise. 1247. Maple Street turned out to be a tidy blue house, with white shutters and a well-maintained garden. Rose bushes lined the front walkway, and someone had recently swept the porch. Maya climbed the front steps and knocked firmly on the door. When it opened, her heart nearly stopped. Evan stood there in jeans and a grey t-shirt, his hair still messy from sleep. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then his eyes widened with the same shock she was feeling. "Maya? You've got to be kidding me," she whispered. "Evan? Who's at the door?" called a voice from inside the house. Evan stepped back, his face flushing. "Dad, this is Maya Bennett from the home care service. Maya, this is my father, Daniel." A tall, thin man with kind eyes and silver hair appeared in the hallway. He walked with a slight limp but moved confidently. His smile was warm and genuine as he approached the door. "Miss Bennett, please come in. I'm so sorry. My son was just leaving for work." Maya forced her professional mask into place and stepped into the house. "Good morning, Mr. Whitaker. I'm here to help with your daily routine. Please call me Daniel, and thank you for coming so early. I know it's not easy to rearrange your schedule." The house was comfortable and lived in, with family photos covering the mantelpiece and books stacked on every available surface. Sunlight streamed through lace curtains, and Maya could smell coffee brewing in the kitchen. Evan grabbed a travel mug from the counter and his keys from a hook by the door. "I'll get out of your way," he said quietly to Maya. "Dad, I'll call you this afternoon to check in. Drive safely, son." Daniel watched Evan leave, then turned to Maya with a thoughtful expression. "He's a good boy, but he's been worried about me since the stroke. Sometimes I think he hovers more than necessary." Maya set her bag down on the coffee table and pulled out Daniel's file. "Let's start with your medication schedule. Do you have everything organized?" For the next 2 hours, Maya worked through Daniel's routine. His medications were properly labeled and stored. His blood pressure was stable. His speech, which the file noted had been affected by the stroke, was clear and strong. They took a slow walk around the neighborhood, Daniel pointing out houses where his friends lived and sharing stories about the families who'd been there for decades. "My wife loved this street," he said, as they paused in front of a house with the elaborate flower garden. "She used to say it was like living in a Norman Rockwell painting. All the neighbors knew each other. Kids played in the yards. People actually talked instead of just texting." "How long were you married?" 37 years. She died 2 years ago. Cancer." Daniel's voice was steady, but Maya could hear the sadness underneath. "The stroke happened 6 months later. The doctors said it wasn't related, but I know better. Broken hearts show up in all sorts of ways." They walked back toward the house in comfortable silence. Maya found herself genuinely liking Daniel. He was thoughtful and funny, with the kind of gentle wisdom that came from living through both joy and grief. "Can I ask you something, Ms. Bennett?" "Maya," Daniel said as they reached his front porch. "Of course. You and my son seemed..." surprised to see each other this morning." Maya hesitated. She'd been hoping he hadn't noticed the tension. "We met briefly yesterday. We didn't know we had any connections." Daniel nodded slowly. "Evan's been different lately. Quieter, like he's thinking hard about something." He looked at Maya carefully. "You seem like someone who makes people think hard about things." Before Maya could figure out how to respond to that, a car pulled into the driveway. A woman got out carrying grocery bags and moving with the kind of brisk efficiency that suggested she was used to taking charge. "That's my daughter-in-law, Evelyn," Daniel said. "Evan's mother. She comes by a few times a week to help with groceries and housework." Evelyn Whitaker was an attractive woman in her late 50s with perfectly styled blonde hair and clothes that looked expensive but practical. She walked up the porch steps with a smile that seemed friendly enough, but Maya caught something calculating in her eyes. "You must be the new aide," Evelyn said, setting down her bags to shake Maya's hand. "I'm Evelyn Whitaker. I can't tell you how relieved we are to have professional help for Daniel." "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Whitaker. Your father-in-law has been wonderful to work with." "Oh, please call me Evelyn. We're not formal around here." But her tone suggested otherwise. "How long have you been doing this kind of work?" "About 3 years. I went to school for healthcare administration, but found I prefer hands-on patient care." "How interesting. And where did you go to school?" Maya felt like she was being interviewed, but she kept her voice pleasant. "Community college here in town. Then I finished my degree online." "Very practical. I always admire people who work their way up." The words were complimentary, but something in Evelyn's tone made them feel slightly condescending. Daniel seemed to sense the undercurrent of tension. "Evelyn, why don't you put those groceries away while I finish up with Maya? We were just going over my exercise schedule." Inside the house, Evelyn bustled around the kitchen, putting away milk and bread and asking Daniel about his appetite and sleep patterns. Maya finished logging her notes and scheduled the next day's visit. "I'll be back tomorrow at the same time," she told Daniel as she packed up her supplies. "I look forward to it. You have a very calming presence, Maya. That's a gift." As Maya headed for the door, Evelyn appeared from the kitchen. "Maya, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you have such poise. How long do you plan to stay in home care? I imagine someone with your presence would have bigger ambitions." There it was again. That tone that managed to be complimentary and dismissive at the same time. Maya had heard it before from clients' families who weren't quite sure what to make of a young black woman taking care of their loved ones. "I enjoy what I do," Maya said simply. "Taking care of people is important work." "Oh, absolutely. I didn't mean to suggest otherwise. I just think you could probably do anything you set your mind to." Daniel walked Maya to the door. "Thank you for today. You've made everything feel much more manageable." "That's what I'm here for. I'll see you tomorrow, Daniel." As Maya walked to her car, she could feel Evelyn watching from the kitchen window. She'd dealt with suspicious family members before, but something about this felt more complicated. This wasn't just about a stranger coming into their home. This was about Evan's mother, evaluating the woman her son had gone on a date with. Maya's phone buzzed as she reached her car. A text from Evan. "I'm sorry about this morning. I had no idea you'd be Dad's aide. I hope it won't make things awkward." She stared at the message for a long moment before responding. "It's fine. Your father is lovely to work with." Her phone buzzed again almost immediately. "Would it be okay if I texted you later? Not to ask you out or anything, just to apologize properly for this morning and last night." Maya sat in her car, air conditioning blasting against the morning heat. Every logical part of her brain said to keep things simple and professional. Evan was his father's son, which meant she'd probably see him regularly. Getting involved with him would complicate her work life in ways she didn't need, but Daniel's words kept echoing in her mind. "You seem like someone who makes people think hard about things." Maybe thinking hard about things wasn't always a bad thing. "One text," she replied, "but keep it simple." The rest of her day was busy with 2 other clients. Mrs. Rodriguez, who was recovering from hip surgery, and Mr. Thompson, who had diabetes and needed help managing his diet. Both visits went smoothly, but Maya found herself distracted. She kept thinking about the way Evelyn had looked at her, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. She was making dinner in her small apartment when her phone rang. Tasha's name appeared on the screen. "Please tell me you had a boring day with no complications," Tasha said without preamble. "I wish I could." Maya told her about the morning's surprise, Evelyn's careful questions, and Daniel's kindness. Tasha listened with increasingly loud sighs. "So now you have to see this man every day for work?" "Not every day, but regularly, yeah. And his mother clearly doesn't approve of you." She was polite enough, just watchful. "Maya, honey, this is getting messy before it even started." Maybe you should ask your supervisor to assign Daniel to someone else. I'm not going to run away from a good client because his son is complicated. Daniel needs consistency, and I'm good at what I do. I know you are. I just don't want you to get hurt. I'm not going to get hurt, Maya said with more confidence than she felt. I'm going to do my job, be professional, and if Evan wants to prove he's different from what I heard last night, he'll have to do it without any help from me. That evening, as promised, Evan texted her. The message was longer than she'd expected, but more thoughtful too. Maya, I keep thinking about what you said last night about trust being a pattern. I want you to know that I understand I have a lot to prove, and I understand that it has to happen through my actions, not my words. I also want you to know that I respect your work with my dad, and I won't let our situation affect his care. If it would be easier for you, I can make sure to stay away when you're there, whatever makes you most comfortable. Maya read the text 3 times. It wasn't pushy or dramatic. It wasn't trying to charm her or make excuses. It was considerate and mature, the kind of message from someone who was actually thinking about her comfort instead of his own agenda. She wrote back, I appreciate that. Let's just take things one day at a time. His response was immediate. That's all I can ask for, thank you. Maya set her phone aside and tried to focus on the book she'd been reading, but her mind kept wandering. Tomorrow she'd go back to Daniel's house, and there was a good chance she'd see Evan again. The thought made her nervous and curious in equal measure. Outside her window, the sun was setting over the lake in the distance. Couples walked along the shore path, hand in hand, looking comfortable and content. Maya wondered what it would feel like to have that kind of easy happiness with someone. Not the dramatic, complicated feelings she'd had with past boyfriends, but something steady and real. Her grandmother had always told her that the right person would make her life better, not more difficult. If someone brings more chaos than peace, Grandma had said, they're not your person. Maya wasn't sure yet what kind of person Evan was. But tomorrow, and in all the days that followed, she'd be watching carefully to find out. As she got ready for bed, Maya made herself a promise. She wouldn't make excuses for him, she wouldn't try to change him, and she wouldn't settle for anything less than the respect she deserved. If Evan wanted to be part of her life, he'd have to earn his place there, one honest action at a time, and if he couldn't or wouldn't do that, she'd be perfectly fine on her own. Outside, the last light faded from the sky, and the lake grew still and quiet. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new questions, and new opportunities to see what kind of man Evan really was when no one was watching. Maya fell asleep thinking about Daniel's gentle wisdom and wondering if kindness might be more hereditary than prejudice. Maya arrived at Daniel's house the next morning to find Evan's car already in the driveway. Through the kitchen window, she could see him sitting at the table with his father, both of them laughing about something over coffee and toast. She knocked softly and waited. When Evan opened the door, he looked genuinely pleased to see her, but he stepped back immediately to give her space. Good morning, Maya. Dad's been looking forward to your visit. He's been talking about showing you his wife's rose garden. That sounds lovely. Maya kept her voice professional but friendly. How has his morning routine been? He took his medications on time and ate a good breakfast. I made sure he had everything ready for you. Daniel appeared behind his son, using a walking cane but moving steadily. Maya, perfect timing. I was just telling Evan about how you helped me remember the proper way to water the roses yesterday. Your wife knew what she was doing when she planted those, Maya said, setting down her medical bag. They're beautiful. Evan gathered his things from the counter. I'll let you two get to work. Dad, remember what the doctor said about overdoing it with the gardening. Yes, you worry too much. Daniel waved him off affectionately. Maya will keep me in line. After Evan left, Maya and Daniel settled into their routine. Blood pressure check, medication review, light breakfast if he hadn't eaten enough. Daniel was an easy client, organized, cooperative, and genuinely interested in taking care of himself. Can I ask you something personal? Daniel said, as they prepared for their daily walk. Of course. Do you have family nearby? Maya adjusted the strap on her medical bag. My parents live about 2 hours north. I have a younger brother in college. We're close, but everyone's pretty spread out these days. And friends? Support system? My roommate Tasha is like a sister to me. We've been friends since high school. Maya glanced at Daniel curiously. Why do you ask? Because this job must be emotionally hard sometimes. Taking care of people who are struggling, dealing with worried families. I want to make sure you have people looking out for you too. The simple kindness of the question caught Maya off guard. Most clients saw her as a service provider, not as a person with her own needs and feelings. That's very thoughtful of you to ask. Yes, I have good people in my life. They walked through the neighborhood at Daniel's careful pace, pausing to greet neighbors working in their yards, and to admire an elaborate vegetable garden that belonged to the family next door. "My wife would have loved that tomato setup," Daniel said, leaning on his cane as they watched a woman harvesting cherry tomatoes. "She always said the secret was talking to the plants like they were friends." "Did it work?" "We had the best tomatoes on the block for 30 years running." His smile was soft with memory. Of course, that might have had more to do with her green thumb than her conversation skills. As they turned the corner back toward his house, Daniel grew more serious. "Maya, can I share something with you?" "Sure." "Evan's been different since he met you. More thoughtful, like he's been forced to look at himself honestly for the first time in a while." Maya kept her eyes on the sidewalk ahead. "Mr. Whitaker, Daniel, I think it's better if we don't talk about your son and me. It keeps things simpler. You're probably right, but I want you to know that sometimes the most important growth happens when we're uncomfortable. My son's been comfortable for too long." That afternoon, Maya was organizing her notes when her phone buzzed. Evan's name appeared on the screen. "I know you said to keep text simple, but I wanted to ask if you'd be comfortable with me being there when you work with Dad sometimes. Not to interfere, just to learn more about his care routine. I promise to stay out of your way." Maya stared at the message. It was a reasonable request. Family members often wanted to observe care routines so they could help between visits. But it would mean spending time with Evan in a professional context, which felt both safer and more dangerous than a traditional date. She wrote back, "That would be fine. Just remember, I'm there to work." "Understood. Thank you." The next few days fell into an unexpected rhythm. Maya would arrive at Daniel's house to find Evan there, quietly observing as she went through the medical checks and exercise routines. He asked thoughtful questions about Daniel's medications and took notes about the physical therapy exercises. Most importantly, he stayed out of Maya's way and let her do her job without interference. Maya found herself watching him when she thought he wasn't looking. The way he listened carefully when she explained why certain exercises were important, how he made sure Daniel had everything he needed without hovering. The gentle way he talked to his father about taking things slowly and not pushing too hard. On Thursday morning, Maya arrived to find Daniel sitting on the front porch looking frustrated. "What's wrong?" she asked, sitting down beside him. "Evan had to leave early for a work emergency, and I can't get the new childproof cap off my blood pressure medication. My hands are still a little weak on the left side. Let me help with that." Maya opened the bottle easily and handed Daniel his morning pills. "How are you feeling about having the childproof caps? I know they can be frustrating. Evan insisted on them after I accidentally took an extra dose last week. He was probably right, but I hate feeling helpless." Maya nodded, understanding. "Independence is important, but so is safety. Maybe we can find a compromise, a pill organizer that's easier for you to manage but still keeps everything secure. Would you help me pick one out? Of course, we can stop by the pharmacy after our walk." At the pharmacy, Maya helped Daniel choose a weekly pill organizer with large, easy-to-open compartments. As they waited in line to pay, Daniel suddenly said, "Maya, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "Evelyn, Evan's mother, has been asking me questions about you. Where you went to school, how long you've been doing this work, whether you have other ambitions." Maya's stomach tightened. "What did you tell her?" "The truth, that you're professional, kind, and excellent at your job, but I get the feeling she's fishing for something specific. She's trying to figure out if I'm good enough for her son," Maya said quietly. Daniel looked at her with surprise. "So there is something between you and Evan." Maya realized she'd said too much. "We went on one date. It's complicated. Most worthwhile things are." Daniel paid for his pill organizer, and they headed back to the car. "Can I give you some unsolicited advice? I'm not sure I want to hear it. Evelyn means well, but she's been trying to control Evan's life since he was born. She has very specific ideas about who he should marry, where he should live, what kind of life he should have, and those ideas don't always take into account what would actually make him happy." Maya started the car, but didn't put it in drive yet. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've seen the way my son looks at you when he thinks no one is watching, and I've seen the way you look at him when you think no one is watching, and I think you might be exactly what he needs, even if his mother disagrees." "Daniel, I'm not asking you to make any decisions. I'm just asking you to judge Evan by his own actions, not by his mother's opinions." That evening, Maya was making dinner when Tasha came home from her job at the insurance office, looking tired but curious. "How's the complicated client situation going?" Tasha asked, kicking off her heels and collapsing onto their small couch. "It's getting more complicated," Maya told her about the week's developments, Evan's careful presence during care visits, Daniel's insights about family dynamics, and Evelyn's subtle questioning. So basically, the dad loves you. The son is trying to prove himself and the mother is investigating your background, like you're applying for security clearance. That's about right. Tasha was quiet for a moment. How do you feel when you're around him? Evan, I mean. Maya considered the question while she stirred pasta sauce. Nervous, curious, like I'm waiting for him to disappoint me, but also hoping he won't. And has he disappointed you? Not yet, but it's only been a week. Maya, can I ask you something without you getting defensive? I'll try. When was the last time you gave someone a real chance? Not just one date or one conversation, but an actual chance to show you who they are over time. Maya turned away from the stove to face her friend. What do you mean? I mean, I've watched you go on dates with guys for 3 years, and you always find a reason to end things before they get serious. The accountant was too boring. The teacher was too eager. The guy from the coffee shop talked too much about his ex. Those were all legitimate reasons. I'm not saying they weren't. I'm just saying maybe this time, with all the complications and family drama and work connections, maybe you can't run away as easily. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maya leaned against the kitchen counter, thinking, You think I run away from things? I think you protect yourself, which is smart, but sometimes protection can look a lot like running away. That night, Maya lay in bed thinking about Tasha's words. Was she really running away from relationships, or was she just being careful? There was a difference between having standards and being afraid of vulnerability. Her phone buzzed with a text from Evan. Dad told me you helped him with his medication organization today. Thank you for going above and beyond. She stared at the message for a long time before responding. That's just part of good care. It's more than that, and you know it. You treat him like family. Maya felt something warm and unfamiliar in her chest. He's easy to care about. So are you. The simple statement sat there on her screen, honest and direct. Maya's first instinct was to deflect or change the subject. Instead, she found herself typing, Thank you. Can I ask you something? Evan's next message appeared. What? Would you be willing to come to my niece's basketball game on Saturday? It's at the elementary school, completely public, no pressure. Lily specifically asked if you could come. Apparently you're now her favorite person after helping with that choking incident. Maya smiled despite herself. Your niece was there that night. She was sitting with her grandparents at the table behind us. She's 8 and very dramatic, so she's been telling everyone about how you and I saved that little boy's life together. The invitation was sweet and low pressure, exactly the kind of thing Maya might say yes to if she were being brave instead of careful. What time? She typed. Game starts at 2 p.m., but you don't have to stay the whole time if you don't want to. Maya looked at the message for a long time. This felt like a test, not of whether she liked Evan, but of whether she was willing to step outside her comfort zone for something that might be worth the risk. I'll be there, she sent back. Really? You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. Thank you, Maya. This means a lot. Maya set her phone aside and pulled her covers up to her chin. In 2 days, she'd be sitting in a school gymnasium, probably meeting more of Evan's family, definitely stepping deeper into whatever this thing between them was becoming. For the first time in a long time, the thought of getting more involved with someone didn't make her want to run away. Outside her window, the lake reflected the lights from the houses along the shore. Tomorrow she'd go back to Daniel's house, and Evan would probably be there, asking quiet questions about his father's care and looking at her like she was something precious and surprising. Maya fell asleep thinking that maybe, just maybe, some complications were worth navigating. Saturday afternoon arrived with clear skies and the kind of crisp air that made everything feel possible. Maya stood in front of her closet, holding up different outfits and feeling ridiculous about how much thought she was putting into clothes for a children's basketball game. Just wear jeans and that blue sweater, Tasha called from the kitchen. You're overthinking this. I'm not overthinking anything. I just want to look appropriate. Uh-huh. And the fact that you've changed shirts 3 times has nothing to do with impressing a certain civil engineer. Maya pulled on the blue sweater Tasha had suggested and checked herself in the mirror. I'm going to support a little girl's basketball game. That's all. Sure you are. Just remember what we talked about. Give this a real chance. The elementary school gym was exactly what Maya expected. Squeaky floors, fold-out bleachers, and the echo of bouncing basketballs. Parents and grandparents filled the stands, cheering for teams of 8-year-olds who were more enthusiastic than skilled. Maya spotted Evan immediately. He was sitting about halfway up the bleachers, waving her over with a smile that seemed genuinely happy to see her. As she climbed toward him, she noticed Daniel sitting beside him, looking pleased. "Maya!" Daniel stood up carefully to greet her. "I'm so glad you could make it. Lily's been asking about you all week." "Which one is Lily?" Maya asked, settling onto the bleacher between the two men. Evan pointed to a girl with blonde pigtails and a determined expression. "Number 7. She's been practicing her free throws for months." As if on cue, Lily scored a basket and immediately looked toward the stands. When she spotted Maya, her face lit up with excitement. She waved so enthusiastically she nearly tripped over her own feet. "She's adorable," Maya said, waving back. "She's been telling everyone at school about the emergency heroes who saved a kid's life," Evan said. "You've become something of a celebrity in the 2nd grade." The game was delightfully chaotic. The girls ran up and down the court with more energy than strategy. Parents cheered for every basket regardless of which team scored, and the ref, clearly a volunteer dad, called fouls with the patience of someone who understood that fun mattered more than rules. Maya found herself genuinely enjoying the afternoon. Evan provided commentary about Lily's improved dribbling skills, Daniel shared stories about Evan's own childhood basketball attempts, and Maya cheered loudly every time any of the girls made a good play. During halftime, Lily bounded over to the stands, still breathless from running. "Maya, you came. Did you see my basket?" "I saw both of them. You're amazing out there." "Are you and Uncle Evan going to get married?" Lily asked with the blunt honesty only children could manage. Maya nearly choked on her water bottle. Evan turned red, and Daniel tried to hide a smile behind his hand. "Lily," Evan said gently, "that's not really something you should ask people." "Why not? Grandma Evelyn asks me about it all the time. She says she hopes you pick someone nice." Maya felt the temperature in the gym drop several degrees. She glanced around and spotted Evelyn sitting across the bleachers with another woman, both of them watching the conversation with obvious interest. "Well," Maya said carefully, "your Uncle Evan and I are just friends who are getting to know each other. But you like each other, right? I can tell because you both get smiley when you look at each other." Out of the mouths of babes. Maya caught Evan's eye and saw him fighting back a laugh. "The second half is starting, sweetheart," Daniel interjected. "You better get back to your team." Lily hugged all three of them and ran back to the court, leaving an awkward silence in her wake. "I'm sorry about that," Evan said quietly. "She's been curious about, well, everything. It's fine. Kids say what adults are thinking but are too polite to ask." Speaking of adults who aren't always polite, Evan nodded toward his mother, who was now making her way across the bleachers toward them. Evelyn climbed the bleachers with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Maya, what a lovely surprise. I didn't know you were interested in children's sports. Lily invited me. She's a wonderful little girl." "She certainly is. Very outgoing, very inquisitive." Evelyn's tone suggested this wasn't entirely a compliment. "I hope she wasn't bothering you with personal questions. Children don't always understand boundaries." Maya felt Evan tense beside her. "She wasn't bothering me at all. I enjoyed meeting her." "That's generous of you. Children can be so forward sometimes." Evelyn's eyes swept over Maya's outfit, her hair, her posture. "Are you enjoying the game? I imagine this is quite different from your usual Saturday activities." There it was again, that tone that managed to sound interested while implying Maya didn't belong here. Maya had dealt with this kind of subtle hostility before, usually from employers' families, who weren't sure what to make of a young black woman in their homes. "I'm having a wonderful time," Maya said evenly. "It's nice to see Lily play. She's very talented." "Oh yes, she gets that from Evan's side of the family. We've always been athletic." Evelyn glanced meaningfully at her son. "Evan was quite the basketball player in high school. The coach said he could have played in college if he'd wanted to." "Mom," Evan said quietly, "I think the game's starting again." But Evelyn wasn't finished. "Maya, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you seem like such a lovely, accomplished young woman. I'm sure you have many options in your personal life." The comment hung in the air like a challenge. Maya understood perfectly what Evelyn was really saying. "You're nice enough, but you have other choices. Don't complicate my son's life." Before Maya could respond, Lily scored another basket and the crowd erupted in cheers. The moment passed, but the tension remained. After the game, Lily's team won by 3 points. Evan walked Maya to her car, while Daniel said goodbye to other parents. "I need to apologize for my mother," Evan said as soon as they were out of earshot. "You don't need to apologize for other people's behavior." "Yes, I do. Especially when those people are my family and they're being rude to someone I care about." Maya stopped walking. "Someone you care about?" Evan's cheeks flushed, but he didn't back down. Yes, I know it's only been a week, and I know I have no right to feel this way yet, but I do care about you, Maya, more than I probably should. They stood in the parking lot, autumn leaves swirling around their feet, while Maya processed his honesty. She could see Evelyn watching them from across the parking lot, her expression carefully neutral. Your mother doesn't approve of me, Maya said. My mother doesn't approve of anyone who wasn't hand-selected by her. That's her problem, not yours. But it affects you, only if I let it. Evan stepped closer, his voice dropping. Maya, I need you to understand something. I spent 30 years trying to make my mother happy. I chose my college major, based on what she thought was practical. I lived in the apartment she found for me for 2 years after graduation. I even dated women she introduced me to because it was easier than arguing. And now? Now I'm tired of living someone else's life. I want to make my own choices, even if they're messy, especially if they're messy. Maya looked across the parking lot at Evelyn, who was now talking animatedly to the woman beside her, while keeping one eye on Maya and Evan. This isn't going to be easy, Maya said. I know. Your family dynamic is complicated. I know that too. And I won't be anyone's rebellion against their mother. If you choose to be with me, it has to be because you want me, not because you want to prove a point. Evan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was serious and steady. Maya, I need you to know something. What I feel for you has nothing to do with my mother's opinions and everything to do with who you are. The way you take care of my father like he's your own family. The way you handled that emergency at the restaurant without panicking. The way you gave me a second chance even when I didn't deserve it. The way you make me want to be better than I've been. Maya felt something shift in her chest, a loosening of the careful guard she'd kept around her heart. Evan, I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give, he said quickly. I'm just asking for the chance to prove that this is real, that what I feel for you is real. Before Maya could respond, Lily came running across the parking lot, still in her basketball uniform and glowing with victory. Maya, did you see me make that last shot? Coach says I'm getting really good. You were amazing, Lily. I'm so proud of you. Lily beamed and threw her arms around Maya's waist in an enthusiastic hug. Over the little girl's head, Maya caught Evelyn watching the interaction with an unreadable expression. Are you coming to our family dinner tomorrow? Lily asked, pulling back to look up at Maya. Oh, I don't think, Maya began. Please. Grandpa Daniel said you might come, and I want to show you my room and my book collection. Maya looked at Evan, who shrugged helplessly. It's just a casual Sunday dinner, nothing fancy. But no pressure if you're not comfortable. Maya thought about Tasha's words. Give this a real chance. Maybe it was time to stop protecting herself so carefully and see what happened when she stepped fully into the complicated messiness of real life. What time? She heard herself asking. Really? Lily bounced on her toes. 5 o'clock. We always eat early on Sundays. Then I'll see you tomorrow at 5. Driving home, Maya called Tasha and put the phone on speaker. How was the basketball game? Tasha asked. Complicated. I'm going to their family dinner tomorrow. Whoa, that's a big step. How are you feeling about it? Maya considered the question as she stopped at a red light. Terrified, hopeful, like I'm about to find out whether I'm brave enough for something real. You are brave enough, Tasha said firmly. You've always been brave enough. You just haven't found anyone worth being brave for. What if his mother hates me? Then his mother hates you. But that doesn't decide what happens between you and Evan. Only you two get to decide that. That night, Maya lay in bed thinking about the feel of Lily's small arms around her waist, the way Evan had looked at her when he said he cared about her, and the challenge in Evelyn's carefully polite questions. Tomorrow she'd sit at their dinner table and let them see more of who she really was. She'd answer their questions honestly and see whether this family, this complicated, imperfect, real family, had space for someone like her. For the first time in years, Maya fell asleep thinking that maybe, just maybe, the risk of getting hurt was worth the possibility of finding something beautiful. Outside her window, the lake was calm and still, reflecting the stars like promises waiting to be kept.